As long as we are here, the moon was constantly visible above us. Still, we develop new ideas every year. Even more, the most inventive discoveries or irrational weird theories might be true. What is the recent weird substance discovered in a distant? Hello and welcome to KYC. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. What lunar side should we focus on? Life. Why is the moon descending? Despite appearing to be dead, the moon is not really cold dead, with a dark crater undisturbed by human intervention, the desert. However, for ages, people have reported eerie moonlight flashing at a rate of every couple of months at Canterbury on June 18, 1178. 5 Monks Cathedral. The moon explosion was reported. Unusual lights are referred to as temporary lunar occurrences, or TLPS. Until recently, these were regarded as fiction. In 2002, Columbia University's Arlen Kratze, New York, discovered that most starred at just 6 locations. There are still seismometers on the moon. Several hundred were reported. Moon tremors, and Kratz thinks that when they release gas from the depths, TLPS happen. In the innards of the moon, to release explosively merely halfway through fractures and cracks, tons of gas dissipate into nothingness would be sufficient to produce a few clouds. Miles long that lasts for 5 to 10 minutes. The same feature is covered by TLPS at 1 square mile minimum. They can endure for a moment or several hours. And they have a brightening effect, darkening or dimming of the lunar surface. Kratz's assertion that the moon is a greater harsh, lethal environment for people compared to expectations. 9. Perhaps the most is locked in orbit. The moon's outstanding feature is that it always displays the same face to us. But because the moon and Earth are both, how is it that they are orbiting and revolving? Possible since a very long time ago. The gravitational effects slowed the spin of the moon. The moon's orbit, once about its axis, slowed to match its orbital speed. Several moons were stabilized by the influence around other planets. The same conduct is used considering phases as the moon orbits. That is how they operate. A portion of its time between the Earth and we and the Sun also, the light is somewhat turned away from us. Known as a new moon, there is no such thing as a dark, therefore, side of the moon that we'll focus on. Never observe the moon as it rotates, and it's a slice of reflected light in orbit on Earth. Sunlight is seen as a lunar crescent when the moon is in opposition to the. From our perspective, the sun fully illuminates it. As we can see, an entire moon 8. Earth's sibling, the sole natural satellite of Earth, is the moon. Left satellite, perhaps not in 1999, as discovered by scientists that an asteroid that is 3 miles broad, likely due to the gravitational pull of the Earth grip, become a satellite of ours in the process. This asteroid, known as Krutny, it 770 years to finish an orbit resembling a horseshoe. It will hang near Earth in that position. State of the world moon for at least 5,000 years. 7 is your sibling. Moon is descending. Why doesn't the moon drop to the ground? Newton was the first to recognize the solution. Is plummeting down and has never stopped, reaches the floor to demonstrate the reason the moon orbits the Earth. Newton drew this comparison. Think about a gun that discharges a projectile across the ground horizontally. Its trajectory curves as a result of gravity. downwards, and perhaps 100 meters later it falls to the earth. But picture a considerably more massive cannons that discharge a greater, it travels farther with a faster cannonball. Perhaps a mile prior to taking a downwardly curved path, catches the earth. Visualize a massive gun, the mother of all the guns, whose cannonball travels 28,080 miles each hour. That things are moving so quickly, the globe of Earth is of the utmost significance. As soon as the cannonball bends downward and toward the earth, the surface of the earth slants away from cannonball. Consequently, the cannonball never strikes the ground, going round and round indefinitely. Exactly this is what the moon is doing. Evidence that what Newton said was true originating in the International Space Station. Remarkably, gravity is roughly 90 at that altitude. Percent of what it is on the planet is surface, although the astronauts are light, because despite the fact that they are behind gravity, are dropping as well as Einstein in free fall. Recognized no sense of gravity. 6. A while back, the 10 times closer to the moon after the creation of the Earth, 4.55 before a billion years. Massive space shakes the foundational elements, with planets remained whizzing around. One such planetesimal rock larger than modern-day Mars struck the Earth. The Earth inundating magma ocean was spattered off into space, creating a ring. Produced by around the Earth, Thea's influence was fleeting, and its material quickly cooled and solidified into our satellite. The moon was 10 times larger on its birthday than it is at the moment. Closer to our planet, the tides it created on the planet's oceans, the moon's orbital energy was depleted and caused it to lose its balance countless eons to its most recent place. 5. Moon dust has a powdery odor. There was a genuine concern that in 1961, the moon had a thick covering of dust where, in the absence of any spaceship would trace. Although these worries turned out to be unfounded, there is a thin layer covering the moon. Moon dust covered the space in a fine layer. Astronauts' Apollo spacesuits had entered each and every crevice in their both spacecraft. A gunpowder smell today, knowing that in the body, small nanoparticles can exist. Lung disease creating breathing issues. Moon dust is feared to be contaminated, which toxic. 4. Moon's a space rock punching bag surface with several craters results from intensive space hammering. 4.1 billion, 3.8 billion, and rocks decades ago. The effects of this war can be seen as craters haven't changed much in 2 decades. Primary causes: the moon's geology is not particularly active. Thus, tremors, volcanoes, and mountain construction does not harm the similar to how they do on Earth, and because there isn't any atmosphere without rain or wind, hence there is virtually little surface erosion. 3. On the moon, a man is interred. There are 100 billion graves on the planet. For some reason, Earth on the moon, only one individual is interred. Mr. Gene Shoemaker is his name. During the 1960s, a Shoemaker participated in the preparation of astronauts for Apollo. He battled to have a scientist sent to the and at last received his wish when on Apollo 17, Schmidt was a crew member. Shoemaker spent a large portion in his later years examining the area for impact craters world and found several in 1997 while one Australian expedition his car was in a head-on collision. Accident on a deserted road a few northwest of Alice Springs, 100 kilometers. Some of his ashes were found 2 years later. Brought to the moon by the lunar prospector and a spacecraft. Two research from China identified strange substances the far side of the moon. Chinese researchers published a study of a peculiar material they knew atop the moon's far side. The Chang'e 4U-22 rover from China mission July saw the discovery of the gel-like material 2019, and in 2020 Chinese academics discussed the information in a study. The dark green material that resembles glass, similar in appearance to breccia, or pieces of minerals that were crushed, glued together. Information was provided about the object, collected from U-22's panorama and hazard avoidance cameras, and the rover is near and visible. IR spectrometer instrument researchers at NIST declared that the substance might have formed in a volcanic eruption or an impact. One of the best places to start looking. The moon hosts earthly living forms. Asteroid about 800 million years ago, it hit the moon with the size of Key West. Generated the 57-mile Copernicus star. Crater and strewn debris across the area. The similar bombardment has occurred on Earth. Actually, our planet is inevitably a bigger target. Earth was ejected from several of the encounters. Debris that struck the moon, similarly to how meteorites are found on Earth. From Mars and the moon, we should learn more about the moon. Earth-borne meteorites. This suggests a fascinating potential of figuring out retained biological information in lunar rocks, material, and even ancient bacteria from the birth of life. Proof on Earth was long since removed by means of geological action on land. Contrarily, we could need to visit to learn more about our ultimate sources. Thank you for watching.